In May 2001, Cisco Systems tells the market something companies almost never say out loud. It will take a charge of $2.25 billion against inventory. Then, it will scrap and destroy most of that equipment. Not auction it, not park it in a desert warehouse and wait. Destroy it. The boards, the routers, the optical cards, the custom silicon bought for a boom that has already left the building, they sit in factories and depots that were, a season earlier, running as if the internet would never stop thickening. Now, the same goods are classified as deadweight. The company that sold the plumbing of the web is preparing to throw its own plumbing into the pit. $2.25 billion is not a rounding error. It is a confession written in accounting language. The goods on the books cannot be sold for anything like what Cisco paid to have them made. This is not a theft story. The money is not stolen. The purchase orders are not a criminal plot. Customers really did send them. Contract lines really did build. The loss is a write-down. Value erased because the inventory has no honest buyer at cost, and dumping it would wreck the living product line.
The contradiction sits in daylight. Cisco is famous for speed, for reading orders almost as they form, for a virtual close that let executives treat the firm like a dashboard. That same machine just manufactured a mountain of hardware nobody will take. If the most networked company on Earth can be this wrong about what the network wants, what exactly was it looking at? The answer is not a missing spreadsheet. It is a distortion hiding inside ordinary purchase orders, a wave that looks like hunger until it breaks.
By the late 1990s, the internet is no longer a hobby. It is a construction site. Telephone companies, new carriers, and a swarm of .com hosts are laying fiber and standing up data centers as if bandwidth were a race against extinction. Someone has to sell them the boxes that switch and route the traffic. Cisco occupies that seam so thoroughly that its name becomes shorthand for the pipes themselves. Growth is not a hope. It is a quarterly habit. Revenue compounds at rates that make ordinary industrial companies look asleep. Wall Street treats the order book as a weather report for the entire new economy. What most people miss is how ugly the weather already is on the factory floor. Hot products go on allocation. Lead times stretch from weeks into seasons. A carrier that needs a particular line card cannot simply place one clean order and wait. If the card is scarce, waiting is a form of suicide. So purchasing departments do what scarce markets always teach them to do. They place the same need in more than one place. They double an order. They triple it.
They send a request to Cisco, and a request to a rival, and a request through a reseller, then plan to cancel the extras the moment the first shipment clears. Inside each buying office, the practice feels rational, even dull. You overbook a flight because you assume someone will not show. You overbook a router because you assume the factory will not ship. From 1998 into 2000, this behavior is not a secret handshake. It is an open adaptation to shortage. Salespeople hear urgency and write it down as demand. Distributors hear allocation and pad their own forecasts so they will not be empty when the next wave hits. Each layer of the chain adds a little extra, then another little extra, until the signal arriving at the producer no longer describes what anyone will finally keep. Economists already have a name for the shape. They call it the bullwhip. A small movement in real consumption becomes a violent swing by the time it reaches the plant. In a grocery aisle, the whip might mean too much soup. In telecom, it means too many highly specific assemblies, configured for one customer's network, nearly useless to the next. Cisco systems are built to believe the order.
That is the point of automation in a boom. Remove the human hesitation that used to slow a company down. The software does not ask whether 3 purchase orders are 3 hungers or 1 hunger wearing 3 masks. It sees bookings. It sees a slope. It tells procurement to buy more raw board, more memory, more custom ASICs, more of whatever cannot be improvised later. The blind spot is almost elegant. Everyone can see that the internet is growing. Almost no one can see that the orders describing that growth have been photocopied. The contradiction from the scrapyards of 2001 is already living in those photocopies. The company is not failing to count. It is counting a hallucination that still prints on official stationery.
John Chambers runs Cisco as if latency were a moral failing. The West Virginia-born executive has spent the boom years turning a San Jose networking vendor into the default nervous system of corporate America. He wants the company to feel the market the way a pilot feels the stick, hence the virtual close, the daily and even hourly reading of bookings, the pride in knowing, before rivals do, which product is tightening and which region is softening. Speed is not a slogan on a wall. It is the reason customers stay. If Cisco cannot promise a ship date, a hungry carrier will go elsewhere. And elsewhere in those years still looks like a temporary inconvenience rather than a grave. Around Chambers sits a production model designed to stay light on factory Cisco its cell phones. Contract manufacturers take the drawings and the forecasts and stand up the lines. Suppliers of specialized components are told to be ready, then readier. Long lead parts are the quiet terror of the model. A custom chip cannot be conjured in a weekend. If you wait for a confirmed end user, you lose the quarter. If you buy ahead, you own the risk. The incentive stack points one way. Sales is paid to book.
Customers are punished, in practice, for under-ordering during a shortage. Procurement is punished for being the department that said no while the stock was still climbing. The automated forecasting layer sits in the middle like a faithful clerk. It does not have a motive in the human sense. It has a rule: treat the order stream as truth. Under that rule, phantom duplicates become a production plan. Chambers' psychology is not cartoon greed. It is the fear of being the bottleneck in a gold rush. Miss the build, and you miss the decade. That fear licenses aggressive stockpiles of raw materials and configured assemblies that only make sense if tomorrow looks like yesterday, only steeper. Inside customer accounts, the motive is the mirror image. A purchasing manager who fails to secure gear can stall a network rollout and become the person who cost the company a market. Duplicate paper is cheap insurance. Nobody in that room is trying to wreck Cisco's balance sheet. They are trying not to be empty-handed. Two rationalities, stacked, create a single false map. The dashboard glows, the map is already wrong.
The break does not arrive as a polite memo. Through late 2000 and into the spring of 2001, the dot-com financing machine seizes. Advertising money thins. Carriers that spent like conquerors discover that traffic and revenue are not the same species. Capital markets slam shut on the very customers who had been screaming for line cards. And then the insurance policies unwind. A purchasing office that placed 3 orders for one need keeps one and kills 2. Sometimes it keeps none. The cancellations do not trickle. They arrive as a weather front. Cisco's supply chain, tuned for acceleration, hits concrete. Purchase commitments to contract manufacturers cannot be wished into vapor. Wafers already started, stay started. Boards already stuffed, stay stuffed. Configured systems built to a carrier specification sit on pallets with serial numbers and nowhere to go. This is the Bullwhip's second stroke, the one textbooks underplay because it is uglier than the first. When true end demand falls, the fake extra demand does not decline by the same percentage. It vanishes. The producer who believed in infinite slope is left holding slope's opposite, a cliff of owned material.
Now, in the war rooms, finance is marking lots that will not clear. Operations is staring at parts so specific they have almost no secondary market. Sales is hearing the same sentence from accounts that once begged, "We do not need it. Cancel. We may not even need last month's." Chambers has to choose among bad rooms. Keep the goods and pretend a revival will absorb them, and the balance sheet lies. Dump them into the channel at fire sale prices, and you torch the living catalog, punish the distributors still trying to sell new units, and teach every customer to wait for the next collapse. Take the charge, scrap the majority, and you tell the truth at a scale that will stain the year. In May, the company chooses the third door. The $2.25 billion write-down is the public face of that choice. CNET will frame it as a mea culpa, the rare moment a dominant vendor admits the machine misfed it. The majority of the excess is slated to be scrapped and destroyed rather than recirculated. That verb, destroy, is the part civilians remember, because it sounds like madness. Inside the channel, it is a form of price defense.
Dead routers sold for pennies become competing ghosts. Better a pit than a black market in last quarter's flagship.
The climax is not a single warehouse fire. It is a sequence of ledgers and loading docks. Inventory accounts are hit. Gross margins for the period look like a wound. A workforce built for perpetual ramp is cut as the same quarter's logic turns on labor. Suppliers who tooled up on Cisco's forecast now eat their own overbuilds. Contract manufacturers discover that virtual production still leaves someone holding physical stuff. The stock, already punished by the wider crash, absorbs another kind of news. The smartest dashboard in networking could not tell a real order from a duplicate prayer. Leave the wound open. Some of the material is not romantic junk. It is competent hardware that would have been treasure in 1999. In 2001, it is a liability because the buyers have disappeared and the configurations will not match the next architecture anyway. Engineers walk past cages of product that their own roadmaps are already making stale. Procurement keeps files of commitments that once looked like victory. No villain stands in the center of the room.
That is what makes the scene cold. Every actor can point to a reasonable decision. Together, those decisions manufactured a surplus that only fire, scrap, and accounting language can finish. Later commentary will note that dead inventory can throw off tax effects and odd recoveries, a blessing of a bitter kind. That aftertaste does not restore the quarter. It does not put the canceled networks back on the order book. The company that taught the world to trust the feed has just learned what the feed can hide. The pit is real. The orders that filled it were signed. The demand those signatures pretended to measure was already gone before the last box was sealed.
After the charge, Cisco does not swear off software. It swears off blindness. The operational rebuild is less cinematic than a scrapyard and more important. The company starts forcing the chain to show consumption, not merely bookings. What left a distributor toward an actual network, what a carrier truly installed, what sat unopened. Visibility becomes a design problem. Share forecasts with suppliers in both directions. Watch sell-through. Stop treating a purchase order as a law of physics. The lasting principle is smaller and harder than a sermon about greed. A forecast is a story about other people's fear. When goods are scarce, fear photocopies itself. When money vanishes, the photocopies are shredded in a day, and the producer owns the paper, the silicon, and the story. Automated systems do not correct that. They amplify whatever they are told is a fact. Opacity is not a fog that rolls in from outside. It is a missing column in the table. The column that would have said, "This order is a hedge." Without that column, the most elegant dashboard in American technology can drive a factory into a wall at full speed.
The lesson belongs to anyone who still confuses a signal with a world. Retailers learn it in toy seasons. Chip makers learn it when every customer double orders the same wafer start. Hospitals learn it when they hoard gloves. The Cisco episode is simply the version cut in glass and gold, large enough that the write-down had to be spoken in public, and the surplus had to be killed so it would not haunt the price list. Years later, the firm is still a giant. The pit is not its epitaph. It is a scar that changed how the company asked a question. Not how many boxes were requested, but how many boxes a human network would actually power on. That question never stays answered. New platforms, new shortages, new dashboards will tempt the same photocopy. If the map can be this clean and the territory this empty, what else are we building at full speed because a screen told us someone wanted it?